And we're going to go right to a member of Congress right after the break and see what they're going to do about it. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Ross Coulthard. Boys, he's been driving our understanding here, huh? Right? 4 minutes, 20 seconds. When we come back, this is not going to be news to the member of Congress, but he did just get a chance to listen to the full-throated reckoning of it as well. He's on the Oversight Committee. Is our intel department going after a guy who's trying to get you more information about what matters? What's he going to do about it? Next.
The whole point is if you care, you got to follow through, right? And we just exclusively reported information that the government apparently, allegedly, is trying to smear and discredit UFO whistleblower Dave Grush. Now, there's little question about why they would do this, right? Why wouldn't you just want to play to the transparency? That makes it even more important to chase them on this, especially if they leaked his confidential medical information. And again, there's a very small population of people who could have had the information. And why would they play to his mental health, which, by the way, he already spoke about? You don't even have him in terms of a gotcha. And why would you play to something we're trying to destigmatize by, hoping to play to the idea that it makes him less than? This is a problem, and somebody's got to ask these people, these same questions, who have to know how to find out what the answer is. House Oversight Committee member, Florida Republican, member of Congress, Byron Donalds. It's good to have you. Thank you for being here.
It's good to be with you, Chris. How you doing?
Doing all right. So if the sheriff says, wasn't me, and he's not lying, which means nobody gave me a FOIA request, and if the reporter says that somebody leaked it to him, I'm not saying that the reporter should say it was sources, of course not, but that leads to a very small population that is almost entirely made up of officials within the intelligence apparatus. Do you believe that this is worthy of you asking some questions as to how did this information get out there?
Actually, I do. And stuff like this is very concerning when you have people who served our country having their records being released, whether it's the intelligence community or somebody else. We do need to get to the bottom of that. These records are supposed to be private. They're there so that obviously this gentleman can have his medical situation taken care of. They're for him. They're not for public consumption. And that shouldn't take away from what he is trying to testify to and bring to light for the American people. If DOD or members of the intelligence community want to countermand that, then they can come to Congress. They can actually discuss that stuff with us, and they can actually bring information to the contrary. But to leak his personal records to try to discredit him, I mean, this is some 1950 stuff that's going on, and it's got to stop. And let me also add this real quick, Chris. This is not the first time information's been released on members of our military who are trying to do something else in their private life. We've had several people run for Congress who had their military records released by somebody in the intelligence community or at the Pentagon, and it is illegal, and Congress must investigate this. It's got to stop.
Listen, and it's a great, especially in the age of BS issues that are made political. This is a legit one that I could totally understand you wanting to pick it up and run with it. You got two of your fellow party members. It's bipartisan, the effort for more transparency on this issue overall. But, Luna and Burchett, you got some allies there. I mean, you should pick up this ball and run with it because nobody in America is happy about this. This guy's, a veteran and a special operator who nobody has been able to assail his credibility. And now they're trying to play to one of the most dangerous stigmas in our society, which is saying that he had a mental health issue, so somehow you shouldn't believe him. And it's coming from the Intelligence Committee. I mean, it seems to check every box of no-no.
Well, look, I'll tell you, knowing Reps Luna and Burchett, they're not taking this one lightly. So I'm quite sure we're going to have a conversation about this over the next several days. And I'll add to it, it's not a partisan issue. There are bipartisan concerns about with respect to UFOs or UAPs or whatever we're calling them now, that members of Congress have serious questions about. Our other colleague from Florida, Mr. Frost, you got him up on the screen right now. They have serious questions about this. They want to know that. And as members of Congress, they're entitled to. What we don't want to see is that whistleblowers or anybody else coming forward their credibility is being destroyed while they're trying to bring information to the awareness of the American public and to members of Congress. We got to look into that, and I think we are going to do that as well.
Well, good. That's encouraging to hear that. Appreciate it, Congressman. We'll follow up on it. Anything we can do to get information out about these inquiries and what's learned, we're a call away, as you know. Now, you made a reference. This is some 1950s type stuff. I agree. I see that in place somewhere else. I got to tell you, look, internecine strife within a party is to be expected. You have been a vocal supporter of the former president. The governor of your state that you represent is running against him. I get that there could be a little tension there. But to come after you about having to pick a side when all you said was that you liked the changes and recommendations in the teaching of a specific AP class with a African-American history, and, you know, people can debate the changes and all that. But one of the lines in there was that enslaved people learned traits that they got to use later on, like it was a work training program, like there was upside to being enslaved. You called it out, which anybody with common sense would. Forget about the experience of being a black man in America. And Governor DeSantis and his allies say you have to pick a side because you're somehow getting this wrong. What do you make of this?
Honestly, I make of it that this is politics, man. Me not picking a side, I made my statement, and that's what it is. Fully supportive of everything else that was done. But I think the political side of this is that, you know, his team decided that they wanted to make this more of an issue. And they try to, you know, have that, you know, that argument, that disagreement with me, you know, in Twitter space and all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, is Florida on the right track? Yes. Do I agree with the sentence in there? No, I don't agree with it. I think it does need to be addressed. But I think the bigger issue, like we're talking about, is, in my view, they're picking the wrong fight. You know, there's so many other things going on in the country politically that we see eye to eye on 100%. Letting this be the hill to die on, I just think was a dumb decision. That's kind of the reason why it's kind of gone away now. And, you know, honestly, Chris, was kind of surprised we're even talking about it, but that's okay. I think that in this environment where we are politically, the country is very divided on a myriad of issues. I think as Republicans, we got to be very clear about when we're going to take a stand on something and when we're not. And in this one, we had a disagreement. It's not even really a massive disagreement. It's a matter of distinctions. I see it my way. The governor and his team see it that way. We move on.
Listen, how to teach the kids what the curriculum should be, I totally see arguments on both sides. I don't think they have equal weight, but that's a personal opinion. But the idea that I would want my kid instructed that, you know, slavery wasn't all bad. There were some upsides. They learned how to be carpenters, and some were healers, you know, so they had jobs later on. I don't want that anywhere near my kid. It not only breeds an arrogance of condescending to what that experience was, but it's teaching people to be stupid. I think you're absolutely right, whether you're a black man or not, to stand up and say that that's the wrong lesson. The question is, why would they want to teach that lesson? What's your insight on that? That's not a Republican position.
Well, I think, you know, you have the scholars that put this stuff together, and I want to be very clear. Dr. Allen and the other scholars, they did a very good job. They put all this stuff together. I think there's a similar line like this that was in the AP course that College Board had. There was a slight adjustment, but it's basically the same sentence. And I think this is the difference between when you have scholars go back and do their research and when you have people have an opportunity to comment on said research. And then we have that conversation as citizens about what are going to be the standards upon which our kids are going to be educated on. I think to take a step back, one of the biggest issues that has come out of COVID, and it's not to change the subject of COVID, I'm not trying to do that, is that what it's really done is it's brought parents and members of communities into the classroom, so to speak, to really examine what our children are learning. That's a good thing overall. So when you have these differentiations and these disagreements, let's have it. Let's all learn from it and figure a way that we can all move forward together.
I have no problem. As long as you're having productive conversations, you know, you can disagree about anything. Let's be honest. There are a lot of parents in this country that haven't been on their game the way they may need to be. And culturally, I think we're seeing it reflected in certain outcomes we're having. I think there's a segment of our population that overparents, and I think there's a segment of the population that is underparenting, and it's worth discussing. But this is something different. And just to be clear about the record, the College Board does not agree with the idea, and they put out a statement that enslaved people benefited from on-the-job training that they could use later on, like it was Apex Tech or something like that. You know, they dismissed that. But it does give you a little window into how important it is to find avenues of division. And my question to you is, as a young leader in the party and now in the country, what do you think the best prospect is as a leader to create unity? What do you see as an avenue of opportunity to bring people together in this country right now?
Well, the first is history. I think we have to get to a point where we have a full-throated understanding of U.S. history. Black history is definitely intertwined into that in the United States, and that becomes the building blocks for everything else. I think the second thing is about just culture and a common understanding of what people really want. We want strong, nice economies. We want safe streets. We want political cohesion. Not saying we all got to agree. Nobody's asking for uniformity, but we have to have a process of actually debating and deliberating these topics. I think those are three big things that people want to see. The last is, as our economy and our culture evolve and grow as a country, is it going to give our children the ability to be better than their parents, to take the American experiment to the next level? I think everybody agrees with that. I believe that's the start. Then you start to add in things about, well, how do we look at foreign policy? Well, how do we feel that the intricacies of economy should actually function? How do we look at tax policy? How do we look at border policy? But at the end of the day, can we agree on the basics of treating each other with respect and tolerance, and understanding the fact that there are differentiations of views amongst Americans? Between people within races, there's differentiation of views. Within families, there's differentiation of views. And it's having a respect for those differences, being tolerant of those differences, while also trying to achieve some basic idea of what America is going to be going forward. That is the basis for more unity in our country. We're going to have disagreements, Chris, because we're all different. We got disagreements in our households. We understand that. But there has to be a baseline culture that's going to move us all forward together.
And a culture of productivity within government. Right now, opposition is a legitimate position. And that's enough. You know, Donalds can run against Cuomo and say, yeah, my position is I'm going to stop him from what he's trying to do right now. And that's enough. And that's why we're getting stuck on so many problems where there could be action. Congressman Donalds, you're always welcome here to discuss what matters. And I appreciate you looking in to this smear campaign of a whistleblower who deserves protection.
Oh, listen, anytime. Thanks for having me on, Chris.
All right. We look forward to the follow-up. Be well, sir.